All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar today. My name is Denise Pritchard. I'm the Marketing Content Manager here at Restaurant 365, and I'm excited to be here with you today. We'll start things off with a few housekeeping notes before jumping into the presentation. As we go, feel free to submit any questions you have by clicking on the question mark on your toolbar. If time allows, we'll answer as many as we can at the end of the presentation. And just as a friendly reminder that we'll send a link to the webinar recording to you within the next few days. If you need any help at any time, please contact us at marketing@restaurant365.com. Okay, I am thrilled to introduce our moderator for today. Kevin McTighe is a Solutions Engineer Manager at Restaurant 365. Before joining us here, he served as a CFO and controller for multiple multi-unit restaurant concepts, including Chicago-based fast casual concepts, Naf Naf Grill, and Protein Bar and Kitchen, and the full-service Ruby Slipper Restaurant Group out of New Orleans. Kevin has experience with multiple accounting and ERP solutions, including Intuit QuickBooks, Microsoft Dynamics, Compete Advantage, Sage Intacct, and Restaurant 365. Joining him today are Prakash Karamchandani, also known as PK, who is a passionate foodie, tech enthusiast, and co-founder of Balance Grill, a fast casual Asian fusion concept headquartered in Ohio. He oversees development, finance, marketing, and tech innovation, helping position Balance as a disruptor in the industry. Named one of the most influential restaurant CEOs by Nation's Restaurant News and a fast casual top 24 executive multiple years running, PK is known for his forward-thinking leadership and commitment to people-first operations. Also joining us today is Chasten Johnson, COO of Ted Hot Dogs. Chasten is a seasoned QSR executive with 19 years of leadership experience in operations and growth management. He began his career as a training manager and rose to regional director of operations, overseeing 91 restaurants and leading multi-level teams across several major brands, including Popeyes, Hardee's, Carl's Jr., and Taco Bell. Now COO at Ted's Hot Dogs, Chasten drives corporate strategy and operational performance with a focus on talent development, efficiency, and continuous improvement. All right, I'll go ahead and pass this off to Kevin to walk you through the agenda and the presentation.
Thank you, Denise. Really appreciate that. So happy to be here today, especially with our two esteemed panelists. Today, we're going to be going through some key aspects of the state of the industry to kind of set the stage for our conversation. So we're going to be talking a little bit about what is happening in terms of cost of goods, inventory, and labor for our customers today, based on a survey that we sent out at the beginning of the year. We're going to be doing a little bit of a current state of the industry, current market analysis that looks at some of the recent trends and current events that are impacting our restaurant operators today. And then most importantly, we're going to get into the very creative cost-saving tactics that both PK and Chasten have deployed in their organizations to help tackle some of these current market challenges and ways that you can kind of deploy similar strategies in your own restaurants to deal with these rising costs and rising challenges. Those strategies include things like reviewing your ingredients, recipes, and menu strategy and positioning certain items in ways that are going to best drive margin and profitability. They include advanced inventory and purchasing strategies from both an in-store inventory management and waste management standpoint, as well as an out-of-store supplier chain management, vendor bargaining, and negotiation strategies. And then finally, we're going to touch on what it means to really handle the best aspect of your restaurant, your people, right? And making sure that you're deploying effective hiring and training strategies that are going to have the best people in their places to help control those rising costs. All right, so the cost of goods, inventory, and labor. There are three words up here that I think really stand out to a lot of our operators in terms of current trends. We've been dealing with really hard inflation for the last few years, and in the last few months, tariffs have been on every headline and every news channel and are having a significant impact on food costs especially, but really on all costs of goods sold, including supplies and cleaning and equipment. And so we're going to get into kind of what the state of the industry is and how we can kind of tackle those challenges as they arise. So what are these rising costs coming from, right? What's the root of these? A lot of these are due to inflation. You know, the popular one that people have been talking about for the past 6 to 8 weeks, the cost of eggs seems to be the new kind of barometer for where inflation is at, with prices on things like eggs going up 20, 30, 40% in a particular week. And tariffs are creating a lot of uncertainty around any goods that are being imported, like avocados or spices or any kind of materials that you use in your restaurant that come from other countries. This new tariff trade war is really putting a lot of uncertainty and pressures around what are those goods going to cost me now and what are they going to cost me in 6 months. On the labor cost front, we're looking at a lot of wage increase challenges. We've seen a lot of these for the past 5 years as multiple states and municipalities have implemented minimum wage rises, legislative updates that have kind of done it in a increasing pace. But we're hitting the kind of peak of some of those wage increase challenges and really finding that in particularly the West Coast and other complicated labor markets like New York and California, we're running into some of the highest minimum wages that anyone's ever seen and really trying to figure out how do we make sure that we're getting good people for that, wage that we're paying. Now, in addition to the, raising costs of goods and the raising costs of labor, those food expenses are, it's really varying, right? And it's depending on individual items. It's like a game of whack-a-mole as you're trying to figure out one goes up, one goes down. It's really causing tighter, slimmer profit margins. And for all of us who are looking to continue to sustain operations and grow our business, cash flow is becoming, the main thing that people are focusing on, just like we were a few years ago in the pandemic, right? We're thinking about where's cash flow going to be next month, next quarter, next year, and what strategies can we deploy to make sure that that's always on the way up and not on the way down. So what are some of those rising costs? What are they quantified, right? When we look at minimum wage increases, there's a 25% increase in minimum wages in California alone. Florida since 2020 has seen a 200% increase. And this really is happening across all states and across all markets. And some states are even requiring quick service restaurant operators to have security on during hours of operation. So not only is the wage of your existing employees going up, but you're being asked to employ an entirely new, different type of employee that you've never had to deal with before. And in addition to that, we're dealing not only with food and labor rising costs, but rents continue to go up. It's good. It's always a good business to be a landlord. Utility costs are going up with inflation as well, and really everything across the board is creeping up and up, and forcing a lot of operators to think about what can I do to address these challenges. So when we did the state of the industry earlier this year, we asked you all, have your food costs gone up? And if so, by how much? As we expected, a lot of people expect food costs to continue to increase throughout 24 and into 2025. And when we looked at our respondents, 78% of you said that you experienced an increase of 1 to 5%, and 61% said that you're raising menu prices to deal with those rising costs, while another combined 32% are getting really into the details of their suppliers and vendor agreements and waste tracking and figuring out what they can do to mitigate costs. So this is clearly an issue that's top of mind for a lot of our operators, and we expect it to be moving forward. We're going to be doing another state of the industry survey here soon, so keep your eyes out for that email asking you to talk about the challenges that you're facing in your industry, and we'll be having another webinar just like this one to follow up to summarize those results. All right, so we've set the stage, right? We've talked about the challenging operation and operating industry and environment that we're all working in. And now I really want to let our two esteemed panelists kind of take the stage. We're going to talk about what they're seeing in their restaurants in terms of those rising costs and what their inventory and labor cost saving tactics have been, because they're really the ones that know how to deal with this stuff. They're in the trenches, and they're going to be the ones that are going to be able to offer strategies that you might be able to deploy in your own restaurants. All right, so food cost trends, right? We've talked a lot about these things, or I've talked a lot about these things, and I want to give PK and Chasten a chance to talk about that. So in terms of, ingredient prices rising particularly fast, we said especially imports. PK, Chasten, and I had a chance to kind of have a quick sync and a quick conversation before that. And they really talked about some of the items that, are being hit, impacted the most by this. So PK, Chasten, I'd love to hear from you and have the group hear from you. What are some of those items that you're seeing the biggest issues on, the highest raising prices, or the ones that are most sensitive to tariffs? Which items are really giving you the biggest pause?
I'll jump in first. For us, it's mainly around packaging, has been the biggest issue. The rest of our menu is pretty straightforward. It's vegetables. Some vegetables do come from say Mexico, for example. But as far as severe tariffs, anything that's coming out of China, so that would be a lot of paper, packaging, plastics items. We use a lot of compostable items. Those are already not the cheapest to put out, and those big gas products are getting hit with that. And then there's other things too. There was like an anti-dumping lawsuit recently that wrapped up a bunch of paper and packaging companies, and those products, some of them are seeing like 600% increases. So definitely it's the wild, wild west out there, I feel like sometimes.
And Justin, what about y'all?
Same here. Aluminum, chicken, eggs, they're going up across the board on my end as well. And so we have been trying to tackle as much as we can strategically with our vendors in DC to kind of drive some of those costs down. But it's the same across the board. I'm in the middle of 2 new builds right now. And with those new builds going up, again, cost of construction is going up. So those are things that, we're really looking at, especially as we're a growing organization. And the cost in these tariffs, they're really impacting our business. So super excited to talk about what we're going to do to kind of move the business forward.
Oh man, two things there that I've completely forgot about. Aluminum, man, that's a big one. And then, like you said, the cost of construction. A lot of our focus in the State of the Industry survey was about how it's affecting your margins and how it's affecting your food costs moving forward. But ultimately, your margins have to be even better and even bigger if your construction costs are going up, so that you can see a return on investment from your new build. So certainly that cost of supplies for construction and GCs is huge as well. Now we talked a lot about, how some respondents in the survey are leveraging menu price hikes to try and offset some of those cost increases. But with both of your business models, with the volume and the throughput and the customer, we talked about that, possibly we can avoid menu price hikes whenever possible, because those little tweaks and changes and cost changes have such a bigger and magnitude and dramatic impact based on the volume of your business. So Denise, if you can go to the next slide, I'd love to kind of set the stage for what you all were talking about, some of these, creative tactics that you took. Chess, and like you said, you're super excited to talk about the tactics that you deployed to manage some of those costs. I want to start with the one that you mentioned about swapping out ingredients or portions to help avoid price hikes. That was a particularly enlightening kind of strategy that you revealed to me a couple days ago.
Absolutely. So for me, again, we want to make sure that when we make these decisions, we're not really impacting our customers, because when we impact our customers, we impact, our traffic and our foot traffic that goes through. So I got with my executive team and I said, what can we do to not put this cost on our customers, but at the same time, not lose the product of quality or the quality of product that we have or what we're pushing out of the doors. So the first thing we did was, with our large cups, we were doing 32-ounce large cups. We brought it down to 30-ounce cups, right? So we really didn't just change what we had on the menu, we changed the size. So that way we're still getting the yield that we need to out of it, and the customer's not impacted by changing the size of all of our drinks. So 22 went to 20, 32 went to 30. So we just took all of our sizes down just a little bit so that our customers would not take that cost. When it comes to, different, like for us, we do fresh bread every day. A lot of our DCs and a lot of things that we get inside of my industry are really imported. So what I've had the opportunity to do is go into my local market, find some of those local farmers and local people that are doing it and that are the same size as me that want to grow. And so I'm locking in with my local vendors and I am getting the product that I need. But at the same time, the large DCs that I'm working with currently, like US Foods, I have had, consistent communication with them where I've been able to lock in the prices that I have right now for the next year. So even if tariffs does shoot up through the roof, I'm set at a locked price. Now, given it's a little bit higher than what I'm paying now, however, it's capped. So I'm not jumping up 20% versus a 5% increase, and I'm locked in that for a year. So what I would say is for anyone on this call is get into your community, figure out what vendors, what local people that you have, because building those great relationships with those smaller vendors that want to get big, just like you want to grow your business, find those local vendors that want to grow with you, find those DCs that aren't as big, but they have the ability to give you that same quality of product in your restaurants and not jeopardize, your customer experience. So from my perspective, it's all about getting into the community, dealing with the day-and-day people, asking the customers, hey, how do you feel about tariffs? What are some things that are happening with you? But I think that you're asking, you're talking to your guests, you're trying to figure out what is their main concern, because their concerns are our concerns. That's how I build that relationship with my community, and that's what we're doing here in my organization.
And they say that this business is a pennies business, but you're proving that it's also an ounces business. I love that 32 ounces to 30 ounces. I think especially, the way that we set this conversation up and we're talking about it is that you're trying to avoid price hikes as much as possible. Because Chasson, to your point, like if you're raising prices, you're putting your traffic at risk. And rather than trying to figure out, hey, can I take a 10 cent, quarter cent, 5% raise on prices here? Look internally first and say, can I take a 5 cent, 25 cent, 10% reduction in my portions and what I'm offering in the way that I'm packaging or presenting this stuff, or to your point, in how I'm negotiating with my vendors. And I loved that when we were talking the other day that, sometimes at least I felt as a smaller operator in the past that like I don't have the bargaining and purchasing power necessarily of a 20, 30, 50, 100 unit group. But to your point, Justin, like you're still spending a lot of money. If you're a single unit operator, you're still spending tens, hundreds, thousands, millions of dollars a year on food costs, and the distributors need your money, and you need to be able to hold them accountable, and you need to be able to have options in market with local vendors that are going to want to grow with you and are going to give you a better option or a better deal or a better service model, something that's going to ultimately help serve your customers. So I love all that. PK, you were talking when we were thinking about ways to kind of manage these costs, less so about necessarily changing the makeup, but really designing new items around lower cost ingredients, and also kind of figuring out how to highlight and promote things that are at the most profitable plate cost margin, at the moment. Can you tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about what you all did to mitigate those challenges?
For sure. Yeah, I'll start at the top of the conversation, which is we're in an inflationary environment. That's why we're having this conversation right now,
Yeah.
and we're feeling the pinch, but so are our customers. And to Chasten's point, like we're not trying to take any more money out of the customers' hands. We're not trying to, slow down foot traffic. We can already see, the formula for revenue is foot traffic and average tickets. And when you see your average ticket go down, fast casual at least, where we're heavily modifier based, you can tell people are skipping those small upgrades. So we don't want to risk foot traffic either. So trying to maintain, our menu prices, even adding some value. So we added a new protein option that had no modifier increase. We used chicken thigh instead of chicken breast, which has a lower food cost. And so we were able to give a larger value to the customer with a larger portion without any price increase. In fact, even with that extra portion, it's still cheaper for us per bowl to put it out than grilled chicken. So, taking ideas like that, or we have a seasonal menu. So twice a year, we launch new menu updates. It gives us something new to keep in the barrel for marketing purposes, but also keeps it fun and exciting for our employees and for our customers. And so this season we launched salad bowls, mainly because it took a lot of the starch options out of the equation, things like imported rice or noodles, and instead focused on locally grown greens, and still provide a great value to our customers. And then lastly, I would say 2 points. One, when we do go to market items, because we always try to provide value for our loyalty customers, making sure that we continuously check what our cost is per item, because R365 does a great job. You can go into your recipe builder and just see what actually your cost is down to the location, honestly, and then just get really granular with what marketing options that you're rolling out for loyalty or for hype deals is what we call them, or you get a free item with X amount of purchase to try and keep that average purchase up, or to bring a friend to balance. And I'll finish with 1 point on distributors. I think going to local is great, but if you're in an MDA, one thing that you might want to look at is if you're on margin and not on a dunnage rate, get onto a dunnage rate. Because if not, then your distributors are making more money while these food cost ingredients are going up. They're not really moving more cases necessarily. So just other things to look at.
Yeah, I mean, I think you touched on a lot there, but the thing that really sticks with me is knowing your numbers on the cost of your ingredients, right? Really being able to understand what is the plate cost, what is the recipe cost of this item, and having that be live and up to date with all of these shifting costs so that you can have those conversations with your suppliers about, hey, margin doesn't make sense for me in this inflationary environment. And, also allowing you to have that creativity that you talked about with your menu, that you can work hand in hand with your marketing department to say, hey, who doesn't love a cold, crisp salad on a hot summer day? And, that's how you're spinning it and presenting it to the customer, when in your head, you're like, ooh, thankfully I'm saving on starch costs. It's giving you a lot more opportunities to be creative there. So, a lot of those strategies that you guys laid out, I really feel like those are a lot of things that a lot of operators can deploy and employ today, that are sort of like, hey, look at your current menu, look at your current purchasing strategy. What can I do right here, right now to stop the bleeding as these costs keep going up? But then we sort of started to talk about even grander, more strategic decisions around inventory and purchasing that, I think a lot of these things you guys did because you have some purchasing and bargaining power, but I think there's some really key insights and lessons to be had from that for even smaller operators. I want to start, PK, with our conversation about what you were talking about with pre-buying inventory, because that was a concept that was pretty novel to me, and one that I really wanted to share with the group.
Yeah, absolutely. So I spoke earlier about packaging, the gas items, and knowing that these items are going up in cost. Being first to know, just having a contract directly with the producer, supplying it through a slot through our MDA, or master distributor. So we have that direct relationship with the producer, who's able to tell us, hey, tariffs are going up. The last round of tariffs that hit for China, which is just a 10%, even that was, having some foreknowledge of that. This one,
Yeah.
knowing that there's volatility, knowing that there's this anti-dumping lawsuit out there, we were able to buy all of our inventory for bowls, salad bowls, taco trays, and a couple other items, some of our biggest SKUs, to kind of hedge against these price increases. And then just working with them to say, okay, we bought this, we put out X amount of cash for it. We're going to take it in this many deliveries, and then working with our distributor to say, hey, can you go long on these slots, hold a little bit more inventory? They like to flip a slot, at least every 60 days. They're targeting 30 days. But we can
Right.
talk to them. And this is one of those areas where if they can't take a lower margin, you can't get, help somewhere else out of your main supplier, just asking them to go to 90 days on a slot would help out a lot.
Yeah, so I think the theme there, right, is get creative in your conversations with your suppliers, right? They need to be more than just the rep that you get on the phone when you need a delivery in 2 days. They need to be somebody who you can have an open and candid conversation about what's going on in the business, what's going on in the world, and what's going on in your supplier relationship, and what can we do? How flexible can we get? What can you stock for me, store for me? How long can we do this? Like, can we modify some of the standard terms to deal with these non-standard times? And I just love that you guys got so creative with that to identify, like, ooh, this is something that's going to have a ton of volatility. It's going to give us a lot of headache and heartache for the next 3 quarters at least. And we got to see what we can't do to at least get some degree of stability so that we can focus our efforts elsewhere. So I thought that was just awesome how you guys made that bulk purchase and pre-buy inventory decision. Now, Chasen, you all didn't necessarily go that route, but you did have some pretty strong conversations with your suppliers about, the items that you buy most frequently and the items that you were filling their shelves and filling their orders with, and what you needed to do. You alluded to it earlier in terms of locking in that price, but I'm wondering if you could share a little bit more about that item and how you went about determining what that lock price should be.
Absolutely. So how we decided what our lock price is, again, I'm a hot dog, hamburger, and chicken vendor. So for me, I already sell my hot dogs at $4. No one's gonna pay $5 for a hot dog, right? So I had to, get with US Foods, number one, and Salen's hot dogs. And I have to tell them, listen, we bring in, $5 million worth of hot dog sales to you every year, not including our buns that now we've actually went to a local vendor, and we went to Costanzo's, and we use Martin's now for our footlongs, which is a Buffalo-based company where we don't have to worry about, anything getting shipped from anywhere. It's locally based. It's fresh every day instead of frozen. So we kind of switched that up. But it was me going to my P&L and showing them my cost, saying, hey, you know what? If we can bring you this much revenue to your business, the fact that our pricing will go up we could go to a different vendor down the street that will match the price. And, again, sometimes you have to have those hard conversations because at the end of the day, we're here to make sure that our company's successful. We're here to make sure that whatever we do is beneficial for us, our customers, as well as the vendor as well, because it's a three-part relationship, right? So for me, it's all about giving them the data. So whether it's hey, this is what I've spent over the last 6 months, this is where my sales are trending, we're up, 30%. I will say in my organization, because prior to me getting here, we didn't have mobile ordering. We didn't have DoorDash or Uber Eats. So me coming into a market to where tariffs are rising, I just initially, I just implemented DoorDash and Uber Eats as of January of this year, and I'm up 30%. So I'm showing them the cost. Hey, this is what I'm doing now. Look at the sales that I'm giving you now, 30% above what I did over the last 2 years. So
Right.
let's talk about cost. If you want to maintain this business and you see the direction we're going, and we're going public and we're going international, do you want to be a part of this train? Sometimes you have to have those hard conversations, and you have to build that relationship with, your DC. Even now, currently, I have a weekly call with my DC. We talk about cost. They inform me, hey, these are the things that are going up. We have a 3% increase on aluminum. When we talk about our hot dogs, our casing has changed completely. We went from a 30-pound case to a 20-pound case because the casing was too expensive. So those are the hard conversations that I'm having with my DCs. And again, sometimes you have to ruffle feathers, but in this industry, if closed mouths don't get fed is the normal saying. You have to open up your mouth, you have to be vocal, and you have to make sure that the DC understands where you're coming from in your organization. These are my budgets. This is the AOP that I set on what I need to spend. So what can you do for us to find a medium point?
I mean, there's so much to take from that commentary, Justin, but I kind of wish I could just get all the participants right now to raise their hands if they're having a weekly conversation with your DC, because if you're not, you should, right? Like you need to be having those Hey, actually people are raising their hands. I forgot we're on Zoom. So that's awesome. I mean, really that's what you need to be doing, right? You need to be having these hard conversations, having them early, having them often, and make sure that you guys are all rowing in the same direction. Look, the supplier's got to make money. You've got to make money. You've got to find a way to make it work. And if anybody is not bringing good faith to those negotiations, it's an open market. Y'all can always find another supplier. It might be tough. It might be a big adjustment, but you need to do that cost benefit analysis and see if it's something that's going to save you more in the long run. The other thing you talked about, Chaston, that I really liked was a combination kind of food management and labor management to bring your costs down. You talked about how you had modified your prep schedule entirely to really help manage your labor better, get people more focused on the in-store operations, and ultimately reduce your prep time, your waste, and your food costs. Can you tell us a little bit more about those changes that you guys made?
Absolutely. So for my team, mostly everything inside of my organization has a hold time for at least 3 to 5 days. So what I did to kind of get my people more so focused on the operations versus doing backups and prepping on my busier days, which are Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, Wednesday is our complete backup day. So what I did, instead of spreading my labor throughout the week where I'm just consistently having people just prepping, before in the morning, midday during our snack period or late night, we do it all on Wednesday. We prep Wednesday for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And so on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, my team is not worried about, hey, how many more backups do we need to make it through the weekend? We're set up for success. So it's a grab and go. On Thursday, Friday, and Saturday is always a grab and go. And we do that 2 times out of the week. So on Saturday night, we prep again to go Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So it's always a consistent prepping. It's always a consistent, hey guys, I don't want you to focus on, a prep chart right now because we have a prep chart. We have a prep chart that gives you what you need for the next 3 days. I want you to focus on foot traffic. How many more orders can we push through this hour? How much more can we upsell this hour? I want to know how much more money we can bring to the bank. At the end of the day, I think that if we take the time out to provide the direction to our operators, the people that make the money for us, and we show them a better way, whatever the simplified version of it is for your organization, we have to actually get in our restaurants. I had to go in and I spent that time with my DMs and my RDOs, and I got into their restaurants and I said, how can we make this a streamlined process? How can we not take away from the quality of product that we produce? How can we make sure that we give that freshness every time, given that we have a 3-day hold time? Well, let's prep enough for 3 days. Let's not do it every day. I want you guys to be focused on driving that ticket average. I want you to focus on those P&L classes or those weekly GM meetings where we discuss where we're at in our state of the business and what we need to do to move forward. Set those goals and expectations. But the biggest thing is it gave my team the opportunity to train, the operators inside of our restaurant. And the biggest thing that we have here is knowledge. Knowledge is our biggest power that we have here. Training our people, diving into the operations and letting them know that, hey, I don't sit at a desk all day. I'm side by side with you. I want to show you that this is how we move the needle forward by giving you your time back. And I will tell you that R365 has had a huge impact with that because, again, we just implemented R365 we started last year, October. We finished in January. And for the last 3 months, I will tell you, my food cost was at a 36, had a 13% variance when I got here. We're under 2%. My labor was at 34. We run 22, between 22 and 23 as a company currently right now. So when I talk about the impact and what it brings back to the bottom line, we can make all this up, but when you look at the results and you look at the P&L and you see the results and what it brings back to the bottom line, this is why I'm having those conversations. This is why I'm diving into my operations and giving my team members their time back.
Man, I wasn't sure we were going to tie it into that last bullet point for the reporting, but Chasten did it with those numbers. I mean, those are huge gains and increases in margin and really allowing you to sort of see the fruits of your labor, right? Seeing that, hey, I made this bold prep decision and it is paying off in a major way. And I can see my reporting from before and my reporting from afterwards and know that the impact was there. And I really think that, what you decided to do there in terms of managing individuals' time, right? You didn't just put aces in their places for the scheduling, which is obviously key to the business, but you made sure that you managed the time effectively of the individual. You want your managers focused on improving the operations of the business, not worrying about whether prep went right 7 days a week. So I think that dovetails really nicely into our next slide and our kind of next conversation about, hiring and training and how, giving people's time back from creative uses of task management and scheduling allows them to really live their best lives within the four walls and really make the best and biggest impact for the customers. With a lot of the challenges that we've seen around rising wages and competing wages across organizations, it's just continuing to stay. It seems like it's been a persistent theme for years now. It continues to be hard to effectively hire and train employees. But PK, when I was talking to you about this a little bit, you guys said that you had some pretty good strategies in place and that hiring and training was core to your business model and really what you do to make sure that you don't have to worry about that as much. Can you talk a little bit about, how you guys hire, how you train, and what you do to ensure that everybody's getting the feedback loop and feeling really validated within the organization?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll touch on a few of those. I think the way that we approach staffing is just really unique to the restaurant space. But one thing that we do that's core to it in its most simplest terms is we incentivize cross training. And through that, we're able to deliver really high average wages to our front of line staff that work in the restaurants every day. And because of that, we're able to attract really great talent. We're able to keep really great talent. But in exchange, what we have to do is train. And so we leverage an LMS system, one that I think you guys like too. So you guys acquired it recently, but we were using it before then, and it works really well. We have hours of training that are in there. Everything's scheduled out. We're able to control the cost of training because we are paying a higher wage even for that training. So we have every single day slotted out what needs to be done after they take their video training. And so we're able to monitor, is the training on track? Are they not on track? Are they accelerating? Are they getting done with multiple daily lists in a single shift? If so, that's probably a high potential employee that we should pay extra attention to and make sure that they come up through the ranks. But I think there's just like with picking a location and having an inverse relationship with how much you spend on marketing. I think how much you spend on your employee's average wage in training versus what your turnover cost is kind of like a natural inverse. And a lot of people have a tough time coming over that. I know a lot of like old school restaurant guys are like, I'm not going to pay more than $2,000 for a site or whatever it is. They're just not going to do it versus, having to spend so much time, effort, and money to market it. It's kind of the same way with just kind of getting over the hump and, investing a lot in the dollars that you're spending along with the training. And in exchange, If you have really well paid, cross-trained people who have been around a long period of time, you can run a higher SPLH, meaning that you can schedule less hours and still achieve your percentage results. So just a different way of looking at it.
Yeah, I think that cross training is huge to making sure that you mitigate the challenges from operating any restaurant, right? When you're talking about availability and call outs and shift trades and all the sort of things that happen in the restaurant to your staff, all that gets a lot easier when people are properly cross trained. And that doesn't work for every concept, but to your point, making sure that people are fully trained up for their roles and making sure that you have the visibility from a management standpoint of who's trained when and where, right? So if you don't have an LMS system in place, highly recommend you getting one in place because it just means that you can, really see your employees' progress and really understand, okay, who's ready for what, which ace is in which place, and who has training opportunities. And you can share it back with the employee, right? No one's trying to go back to school and take quizzes and get graded, but it's a great way to kind of validate that, hey, we've certified you for these skill sets, or you've earned the role that you can work in this part of the restaurant, or you can work in this part of the organization. And it can be a great motivator to kind of show someone's progress through those ranks and can make it easier from a scheduling and management standpoint to know who's ready to go, at that peak hour for that peak position to keep that SPLH low, like you said, PK. Now, Chasten, you mentioned that there was one market in particular where the increased minimum wage was just going up, and you had people in those stores, managers in those stores that were hiring above and beyond the minimum wage, and it was really starting to put a pinch on it. And you looked at it and said, look, we don't need to be doing this. We've got other ways to incentivize the employees, and we've got other ways to reward and compensate these employees, especially in the sense of tips. Can you tell me a little bit more about what we talked about in the great state of New York, I think it was?
Absolutely. So for New York, of course, the minimum wage is one of the highest next to California, right? So we're looking at 16.50, 15.50 in some areas of minimum wage. So you talk about raising labor costs across the board. That was huge for us. How can we bring people in a competitive market and not bring them in at minimum wage, right? And the biggest thing was I had people bringing in level one team members at $18 an hour, right? Because the market's competitive and everyone else is hiring here and everyone else is hiring there. But I had to take a dial back with my team. The way that we manage people sometimes is not about always money, right? Sometimes it's about the culture that's in the restaurant. It's about how that wow orientation starts. It always starts with the interviewing process, that first initial contact, how we build that relationship. Are we setting our team up for success? Or there awards or recognition given for each level that you pass, whether that's a pin, whether that's like for me, if you get to a level 5 in our organization, it's a grill master. What do they get? They get 2 pitchforks engraved with their names on it. They get a grill apron with a grill hat. Just something to incentivize. No, we're not giving you $1 million, but guess what? We're giving you something that's owned to you, that's by Ted's, that's remarkable, right? It's a memory that you'll always have. These are your sets. You're not using everyone else's, pitchforks when you come in. You're using your own. You're using your own apron that has your name engraved on it because you're the grill master. So I made it inviting for them, made it exciting. What can we do? Whether right now we have Focus Friday, so we all get together on Friday. Everyone in our company, we get on a large teams meeting and we talk about what are we doing? What can we focus on today that's going to be better than last Friday? And then we check on our results periodically throughout the day. But what we did is we changed the environment to make sure that when they were onboarded, it was wow. We have centralized onboarding right now. So whether it be in store specific, I have my DMs get involved. And guess what? Every Monday, anyone that's being hired come to our centralized location and we do a wow orientation. Now we know that everyone's set up for success. We make sure everyone has what they need to be productive, and be proficient when they're inside of the workplace. So for us, we just took a different strategy. We wanted to make sure that our organization, our culture was inviting, and I will tell you, our tenureship here, we have people that have been here 40 years in our organization that started in the 70s. And started in the 80s. We have people that have been, I think my lowest tenure GM is 11 years. So when you talk about tenureship and building that culture to where people want to stay and want to grow, and then have that training where it's side by side. And we have what we call a 30-day bubble within our organization. So anyone that comes into our organization, they're put into a 30-day bubble. For their first 30 days, you have a team member trainer that's with you always. Any questions that you have, you work in the same shift as that person, because now I'm protecting you, because I want my people to stay. I'm not giving them extra money, but I'm giving them that support that a lot of organizations lack. I'm giving them that buddy that, hey, wherever we're going, any question you have, I'm certified to train you and develop you. Let's make it happen. So those are the things that I set in place so that my team feels very comfortable in keeping the staff and explaining that, hey, now we have tips also. We use the tip spread across the board. Most of my team members get $200 to $300 worth of tips, and it's spread across the board. So instead of me saying, here's $18 an hour, here's $15 an hour, and here's the average tips that all of my employees get across the board that are not salary. So we use the tips as an incentive now. So we have that minimum wage, but yet and still, most of our employees are getting $200 to $300 a week on tips alone.
I mean, a lot of people, I feel like, just give culture lip service, right? And try to say like, oh yeah, we have a unique culture, we do things differently. But I mean, one, it sounds like you really are doing things differently over there. And two, I mean, I don't think you necessarily want to be hiring or recruiting the people that are trying to bounce back and forth between restaurants for an extra quarter, 50 cents or a dollar an hour and always kind of going to the highest bidder. And even if you are able to go out and get that higher wage, culture in your day-to-day is so important. If you have an extra dollar an hour, is it worth an extra $8 a day to be miserable, right? Or would you rather give that money back to the organization to invest in you to make sure that your day-to-day is something enjoyable, that it is your own, that you've made it your own with your pitchforks and with your aprons, and that you feel like you're part of an organization that is invested in your growth and your development? I think to PK's point earlier, right? Like that's just dollars that come back to you, just like advertising. You invest that money in your employees, you see it in decreased turnover. I didn't know you saw it in terms of 40-year tenures and lowest 11-year tenures, but man, that is definitely a justification for investing in your people. All right, with the little bit of time that we have left, I want to talk a little bit about planning and adjusting, right? We've talked about how all the things that we've done to motivate and retain and engage employees, but you both talked about creative strategies for building schedules and adjusting to changes in sales and how you make sure that you've got the right people at the right time. With the little time we have left, I'd love to hear a few sentences from both of you about kind of like what you guys did on the scheduling front and how it's impacted your business in the face of rising wages. And PK, will go to you first since Shaston had the mic last.
Yeah, definitely. Scheduling is one of those things, you're balancing what you need financially versus quality of life for a large group of employees. And there's a lot of responsibility to that. So we do the best we can with the projections that are provided, and we utilize forecasting, and we just try and get dialed in there first, and then we just keep to the same formula. Formula for us is fairness. We're shooting for an absolute minimum 80 SPLH and an ideal somewhere around 90, and not to exceed 100. That's our KPI goals. So they put out schedules at 90. Then, we're putting out schedules 2 weeks in advance to give that quality of life to our employees, but then we have to keep modifying it. So the next week goes by, our projections change, we're a little busier, we're a little slower, the weather changed, whatever it is. And you have to fine tune it, and you just have to be willing to, treat it as a working document, and not like something. Okay, I put it out a week ago. I'm going to change my mind shift. I'm not going to come back to it until the next day. I'm going to schedule for the next week, and however the week goes is however the week goes. That is the worst way to approach it. I feel like it's kind of like writing a play in a way, not being like super dramatic about it, but you're writing a script, and then you kind of have to ad lib it when you're out there. You don't want to just read right off of the script because it's not going to hit.
A one size fits all approach to scheduling. It's a different movie every week, and you got to make sure you're ready to meet that challenge. Chess, and how about y'all?
Also, for us, we did it a little bit different. What I did was I got into the field with my team. I figured out where I could save my costs in the morning. So we were normally getting to our stores at 8 a.m., but we don't open until 10:30. So I was able to, because of not being able to having to prep anymore, every morning. We were able to do that all on Wednesday. So I was able to give them back, an hour every morning. Hey, you can sleep in a little bit later, which makes a happier employee, and at the same time, I'm saving that labor. So for me, we just kind of adjusted how or what time we brought our people in. And that was able to give me tons of labor back across the board, saving an hour and a half. You have 4 people in the store in the morning doing prep. So, we're saving money that way. But at the same time, we looked at those inefficiencies and we made sure that when we're prepping it the right way. If we're locked in position, having the right people in the right place at the right time. And again, we utilize every part of R365, including hire, APS, everything. So smart ops for me, we kind of dialed into our smart ops where we wanted our labor estimates at, and we kind of configured it to where we were giving, our team what labor they needed back in the right spots.
Yeah, I mean, I think the theme there from both of y'all, right, is that scheduling to me is the ultimate art in restaurant management, right? There's science to it to a degree, but like it is truly an art to, as PK said, balance the financial ramifications with the quality of life for the employees. And you've got a good operator when there's somebody who can, like PK, figure out a model and dial in his sales per labor hour and manage appropriately, or like Chaston, get boots on the ground and figure out exactly what's happening in the restaurants and where you have areas of opportunity to not cut hours that eat out of someone's paycheck, but cut hours that aren't productive and don't contribute to the restaurant, don't contribute to that employee, and give them hours back somewhere where it's actually going to help serve the customer. All right. Well, I just want to say a huge thank you to PK and Chaston for joining us today. It's been absolutely thrilling to, converse with you guys and talk about the challenges that you're facing in these recent times and the strategies that you're deploying to deal with it. And I think Denise has a quick poll for us, as well as some information about upcoming Restaurant 365 events.
I do. Let's go ahead and take this poll. Go ahead and launch it. Would you like to receive a free demo on how R365 can help control your food and labor costs? So I'll leave this up for just a little bit. Yeah, it's such a super awesome discussion today. Lots of really actionable tips and strategies to walk away with.
And while that poll is being filled out, PK, Chaston, any final thoughts you want to leave the audience with? I want to make sure I give you all a chance to say anything that was on your mind that we didn't cover.
First, thanks for having us on. Thanks for, hearing us out. I think it's great to connect with other operators. I learned some stuff from you, Chaston. I appreciate it, man. In the first conversation and in this one, I love where you're giving out gifts every time they learn something. I want to take that piece and bring it back. So I appreciate it.
And same for here. Thank you guys so much for allowing me to speak today. It's been nothing but my pleasure. And again, PK, I'm learning from you guys. I'm learning from you, Kevin. Again, I think that the great part about this is that when you get a lot of great operators together and a lot of great brains, you come up with great ideas and you make great decisions. So I think this is a starting point, and I think that it's only up from here.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much again, Kevin, PK, and Chaston, for your time today. I also wanted to share this slide with those who are interested in hearing more from industry leaders like you heard from today. We'd love to see you at our restaurant transformation tour this year. Our next stop is in Dallas in June, where we'll be hosting a one-day event filled with sessions tailored to different roles in the restaurant industry. It's a really great opportunity to connect with fellow professionals and to learn from each other. But if you can't make it to Dallas, don't worry. We'll be in San Diego and New York later this year. You can scan that QR code on the screen for more details. We hope to see you there. All right, this concludes our webinar. You will receive an email with a link to download a recording to the webinar to listen to again or share with your colleagues within the next few days. Thank you again for joining, and we hope to see you soon.